This is Dietes Bicolor, and it's a very popular, at least in Northern California, very popular perennial grass, and it's evergreen, and it's not actually a grass but a grass-like perennial, and it has this nice flower, and it's one of the features that people are most familiar with. It's got this yellow flower with kind of a black and orange spot on 3 of the petals. And these occur a good part of the year, at least where we are in Northern California, a hot inland valley. And they have, I've seen some in August were really doing a big flush on their growth cycle. I mean their bloom cycle. But the thing that has a large bearing on that is when the maintenance company is pruning these, or when the homeowner is doing that. And I'm showing you a situation here, and I'm going to cover it a bit with commercial, because this is so heavily used in our area by commercial landscape architects that I think it's important to cover this. I think singular plants like this one here are a really nice use around water, or just where you want this nice strong texture, and especially if you have a windy area where you take advantage of the way this moves in the wind. But it's kind of a challenging plant to know how to maintain. When you see these looking the way these do, this is really the ideal. It's entirely green, there's no dead fronds or leaves on there, and the plant just really looks good. But I'm going to show you shortly how maintenance companies treat these, and why they're a little more challenging than these would lead you to believe. This plant that we're looking at here is approximately 5 feet wide and 3 feet tall, and that's pretty much the standard for that. Although when they're planted in groupings, I would say typically they're planted about 42 inches on center is probably a good spacing, and they'll fill that in within a couple of years. What they do is the basal clump divides and spreads like you see here, and that's how the plant reproduces itself. So I'm going to go and look at the other ones that have been cut back, and I want to get into the challenge. Now, if you live in a cold winter area like we do, we get down in the 20s, these can get some burn on them if we get really low 20s. Some of these leaves will start to burn. The problem becomes is how do you clean them up, because only a fraction of the leaves will burn, and what happens is it's hard to get in and clean those out and still have the plant look good. So typically what maintenance companies do is they hack the entire plant down as low as they can. And well, again, I'll look at that in a moment and you'll see what I'm talking about. Here's a median island where they used Dietes Bicolor, and you can see that these were cut back and they're starting to grow out of it. We'll just take a closer look at what these look like once they've been cut back. And you can see that the edges of the plant are all chewed down and they're starting to grow out of it, but you get this dead thatch in here that's really hard to get rid of. The last group that we looked at that looked good, they had cut the plant probably down to about 3 or 4 inches. And these are probably 12 to 14 inches high. The problem is this is the middle of the growing season, and this plant should look its best, and instead the maintenance company has cut these back and has them looking pretty ratty here at the end of summer. So if you have any say in how these Dietes Bicolor are being managed, I would recommend that you have them cut them all the way to the ground. If you look at this group right here, they're beautiful, they're entirely green, there's none of that brown thatch at the bottom, and they must be cutting these all the way to the ground, and also not doing it very often. I don't see any signs of this having been cut back, so however they did it, there's no brown at all, so they must have cut them all the way down. And I would also suggest doing that probably in the spring after winter, when any brown stuff that would occur because of frost has occurred, and the plant has the entire growing season to grow out of that pruning. And that is Dietes Bicolor. Also, just wanted to address water. These are very drought resistant once they're established, even in a hot inland valley and certainly near the coast. And the deer do not eat these. These have been used for a long time in deer areas, and they consistently leave this plant alone.